We need you to speak. Thank you. We'll go ahead and get the meeting started at 6 o'clock. The Tuesday, October 13th, 2020 meeting of the Marquette City Commission is now called to order at 6 p.m. Please join us for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. City Clerk, roll call, please.
Commissioner Bonzal, Commissioner Davis,
Here.
Commissioner Frazier, Commissioner Schlegel,
Present.
Commissioner Stonehouse, Mayor Pro Tem Hill,
Here.
and Mayor Smith.
Here, Commissioner Bonzal is out ill this evening. Could we please have a motion to excuse him?
I move that we excuse Commissioner Bonsall for illness tonight.
And a second, Commissioner Schlegel.
Second emotion.
Any discussion?
Get well.
All in favor, please say yes.
Yes. Yes.
All opposed, please say no. Motion passes 6-0. Commissioners, we have an agenda in front of us. Do we have a motion on this agenda? Commissioner Schlegel.
I'd like to add a item to the agenda this evening, if possible, Madam Mayor. It would be a proclamation supporting Indigenous Peoples Day, which would fall under new business, item 10, please.
Thank you. Do we have support for this motion?
I support this motion.
Mayor Pro Tem Hill. And all in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
All opposed, please say no. Motion passes 6-0. Thank you. So again, just to clarify, that will be item number 10 on new business, proclamation supporting Indigenous Peoples Day. That brings us to announcements. I have no announcements this evening. Moving on to public comment. Public comments may not exceed 3 minutes per person. Do we have anyone on the phone or Zoom for public comment this evening?
I believe we have no public comments at present.
Okay, and do we have any written comments that were submitted?
You could just ask people on the line
Sure.
if there's any public comment.
Those who are on the phone, if any of you do have a public comment for this evening, go ahead and unmute yourself and give your name, physical address, and you would have 3 minutes to talk. Anyone wishing to do so, go ahead. We assumed not. I believe those folks on the line are either our city attorney or folks who are involved in agenda items for the evening. So public comment is now closed. On to presentations. Update on the retirement of Presque Isle Power Plant by Pat Schillinger, Vice President of the State Legislative and Local Affairs, and Rob Breger, Major Projects Manager. And I know we've got some other folks from We Energies on the line as well. So Pat and Rob, go ahead and take it away whenever you're ready. I know we got a presentation sent ahead of time about this, and I'm guessing we'll go ahead and get that broadcast in a second here.
All right, thank you very much. I'm Pat Schillinger, Vice President of State Legislative and Local Affairs for WEC Energy Group, the parent company of UMERC, and just really appreciate this opportunity to provide the Commission and the Mayor and the City of Marquette an update on the demolition work that's occurring at the Presque Isle Power Plant. On the call with us today, in addition to Rob, is Frank Paris, who's the Chief Engineer at the Presque Isle Power Plant, and Les Kowalski, who's our Asset Manager, and Jen Zier, who is our Director of Local Affairs for our company. And I'm going to turn it over to Rob. He has a fairly brief update on the progress we're making in the demolition of the Presque Isle Power Plant, and then obviously we'd be happy to answer any questions.
Good evening, everybody. Do you have the presentation up to show on the screen?
Not quite.
Okay.
It would be easier if you were able to share it, but I can pull it up if you need me to.
Were you
I don't have it out. If you have it available, would probably work quicker.
Okay, just give me 1 moment, please.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Sean. And we're speaking with Rob next, correct? Hi, Rob. Thank you for joining us.
Hi, yes, this is Rob Breger.
Perfect.
There we go.
All right, looks like we're ready to roll. Go ahead.
All right. Hopefully we can get it all on the screen. Hopefully you can see it all. So as Pat indicated, I'm Rob Breger, the project manager for the power plant demolition. Yes, why don't we could go right to that screen if you would like to, or you can, whatever will display on your screen.
I think we're good. You can just keep rolling.
Okay. Okay. You can go to the next slide.
I'm guessing there's a little delay.
Which one are you seeing, Rob?
We're at project status.
I am seeing actually the title screen.
Are you watching on Zoom or on YouTube on the TV?
I am watching on Zoom.
Okay, I'm just trying to. We're figuring it out. We're troubleshooting. Thanks for your patience.
Okay.
We've got a lot of different aspects of technology tied in right here.
This is my first Zoom meeting myself. So.
Oh, wow. You've made it this long.
Wow.
I have. Yeah. We use a different one, Skype for work. So, okay. Now I'm seeing the project status, completed to date slide.
Perfect.
Okay. Good. We good to start here?
Yep, go ahead.
All right. So I guess what I wanted to do is I wanted to cover what we've completed to date, what we're presently working on, and where we're going from here. In early February, our chimney demolition contractor mobilized to the site to begin prepping for the chimney demos. They completed the demolition of the first chimney in early July and the second chimney in late August, just before Labor Day. Our main demolition contractor, Brandenburg, mobilized to the site in early July and then began working on universal waste removals and asbestos abatements. Both of those activities are largely completed at this time. Presently, crews are working outside on the demolition of outbuildings and other outdoor structures around the site. This work will continue through fall until weather conditions impede further progress. Also scheduled for later this month, we have a marine contractor coming to the site to remove both the intake and discharge structures on the lake bed out in Lake Superior in the bay. If you want to go to the next slide. Looking forward, crews will move inside throughout the winter months to perform demolition of the turbine pedestals, and boiler-related equipment and structures. When weather conditions allow next year, crews will move back outdoors, begin demolition of the Unit 1 through 4 building, which is the dark red building at the south end of the site, then onto the Unit 5 through 9 building, followed by the office and yard buildings at the north end last. Foundation and slab removals and cleanup and grading will round out the work late in the year next year. And it is anticipated that the crews will be demobilizing from the site at the end of next year. On the next slide, I've included some photos of the chimney demolition in progress. These first two photos here are looking up inside the chimneys during the demolition of the interior structures. The upper right one shows part of the flues removed and some of the floor structural steel removed. The lower left photo shows all of the interior steel structure and flues removed from inside the outer concrete casing. The next slide shows both before and after photos of the chimney demolition. This is pretty much what you can see from Lakeshore Boulevard out there. And certainly are the most noticeable changes that have occurred at the site so far. That's all I have to share on the status. Do you guys have any questions?
Commissioners, what questions do we have? Commissioner Frazier?
Let's hear the expert demo man. What about the old fly ash silo, the old concrete cycle that's out the back there? I know I've heard you might leave it, you might not. Is that going to be a part of the demo, where they store all the fly ash, the concrete tower?
Les, can you answer that question?
That's an optional demolition item. We're still looking at the potential of possibly selling those facilities to another party.
That's kind of what I figured. I figured, it's truck you sell them. Why get rid of 1,200 yards of concrete? So, thank you.
Commissioner Stonehouse?
Question, if I may, where does the demolished material go? What disposal site is being used, or how's that being handled?
The items that have to be landfilled are going to the Marquette County landfill. Recycled, Brandenburg, the demolition contractor, is taking care of taking anything that can be recycled, steel, all the different types of steel that they can get from the site. They take that off site and sell that to a recycler.
Thank you.
Yep.
Mayor Pro Tem Hill?
Hello, I have a couple questions. The pond, I don't know quite what to call it, but there's the metal grating or metal wall that extends the length of the plant in the Dead River. What's going to happen to that structure? And how are you taking into account or planning to leave the site in relation to the fact of the uncertainty of the water levels? And I'm going to have a different question after that one's answered.
Okay. The metal wall, that's our intake forebay, they refer to that as the bin walls. At this time, that is planned to stay in place. It's part of our stormwater plan structure for the future, for any kind of stormwater that may come off the site and into the Dead River.
So, and whose responsibility is it going to be to maintain that structure?
That would be ours or a future developer's.
Okay, and in terms of the water level question and the grading and how you're going to manage that, do you have plans you can share regarding that?
We do have a stormwater grading plan that our consultant has put together. I do not have that to share right here, but that has been submitted to Michigan Eagle and approved.
Okay, that's good to hear. And my other question was the coal pile and what's going to happen to it?
The coal pile, we are removing the coal. Right now, we have we're trucking some of the coal off site to buyers, and we plan on trucking the rest of it throughout the winter or into next year. The coal pile will be completely removed.
So at some point at the end of 2021, it's going to be flat out there, is what you're saying? I'm just
Yes.
trying to understand.
Yes.
Wow. And how many trucks a day is it going to take to move all that coal?
Les, can you answer that?
Well, it all depends on the time frame it's going to be moved in. We've had as many as 5 trucks here in a day, 5 or 6 trucks. Sometimes we have 1 truck a day. So it really hinges on how much the buyer can handle at their site and what the trucking logistics may be.
That's a lot of traffic on some of our city streets. So I'm hoping that that's being taken into consideration. And then my last question is, what happened to the peregrine falcon nest box up on the chimney?
Frank, would you like to address that?
Yes, this is my first Zoom meeting too, sorry, it took me a little bit. The stack was removed after the nesting season and help me if I'm wrong, last it was 2019, I believe, or the 2020. So that nest was removed from the stack then.
All right. Thank you. And
of course, the stack is gone now.
yeah.
Other commissioners? Commissioner Frazier?
I know you're basically saying your demo and everything. Is there, just out of curiosity, any of the equipment being able to be sold or recycled to somebody? I know you're recycling the metal, but is there, I assume all the equipment's kind of old, so anybody else might maybe want to buy a turbine or something like that, just out of curiosity. Any of the equipment being able to be sold?
Yeah, we did after the plant was shut down in at the end of March of 2019, and the staff put it into a kind of a safe layup mode and drained out fluids and any of the materials we had on site. We did have a contractor come in that went through and categorized, allotted all of the equipment that we had on the site, and ended up having an online auction for all of the equipment that could be sold.
Cool.
Well, I certainly appreciate you all joining us to give us an update. I know it was kind of interesting to watch throughout the summer and hear the sounds of those stacks coming down. They came down, I think, a little more quickly than I anticipated. And I think the overall reaction from the public is, positive and kind of having those come down. And I appreciate your willingness to update us, keep us informed and engaged. And I'm sure we'll be sharing this information. It's out in the public already now that it's on TV, but we'll be talking about it as time goes on. So appreciate the updates. Any major changes, please keep us in the loop, and maybe sometime next year we can get an update as well. Anything else from the commission? All right, well, thank you all for joining us. We certainly appreciate it.
All right,
Thanks for the opportunity. Thank you.
All right, so moving on to item number 2 on our agenda, public hearing for Customs House Brownfield Plan. This will require a roll call vote. City Clerk, could we please have the background?
Thank you, Mayor. A brownfield plan is being proposed for the redevelopment of the Customs House property at 311 Lakeshore Boulevard for 6 residential units. A public hearing must be held by the City Commission for the approval of the brownfield plan. Approval of the brownfield plan will provide for the reimbursement of brownfield environmental and non-environmental eligible activity costs, including environmental due diligence, lead and asbestos abatement, selective demolition, and site preparation by Customs House LLC, and property acquisition in fee simple of an easement by the city that will provide for the Barriga Street extension. The property is located in the Downtown Development Authority Tax Increment Financing District, which has first right to capture all increased incremental taxes except intermediate school district, school operating, and state education taxes. The state requires an equivalent contribution of local taxes to state taxes for state tax capture. However, the state is not supportive of state tax capture for the project, and the remaining ISD taxes are not adequate to support the project. In order for the Marquette Brownfield Redevelopment Authority to capture future increased incremental local taxes for reimbursement of eligible activities to support the project, an interlocal agreement under the Urban Cooperation Act must be approved by the Downtown Development Authority and the Marquette Brownfield Redevelopment Authority. An interlocal agreement under the Urban Cooperation Act with the MBRA will be presented to the DDA board at their next meeting. The Brownfield Plan was presented to and approved by the MBRA at their September 17th, 2020 meeting. This public hearing was scheduled at the September 28th City Commission meeting. Fiscal effect, none. Recommendation, following the public hearing, approve the attached resolution to approve the combined brownfield plan for the Customs House and authorize the mayor and clerk to sign the resolution in conjunction with the approval and signing of the Baraga Avenue Extension Purchase Agreement. Alternatives as determined by the commission.
Thank you. Commissioners, I believe this is a bit of a complicated topic here, and we may have an interest in suspending the rules for some discussion. Do we have a motion to do so? Commissioner Stonehouse?
I motion to suspend the rules for discussion, Your Honor.
And do we have a second? Commissioner Schlegel?
I'll second the motion.
All in favor, please say yes.
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 All opposed, please say no. Motion passes 6-0. All right, so Commissioner Stonehouse, you made the motion. Maybe we want to get filled in from city staff, or?
If, yes, if I can begin, Your Honor, thank you. Is Mac available online?
Yes, I am. Thank you, Commissioner.
Couple of questions, if I can. Is there any protection in this should the developer experience financial difficulties such that they are unable to fulfill the project? In other words, is there anything that protects the city in that event?
Yeah, the expenditures for the city are a relatively small portion of the overall project. It does include the property acquisition that you'll be considering as well. And also some infrastructure improvements to the project. If the project does not move forward at all, the property acquisition is something that would need to be paid for. I just wanted to add one point is that the effect of the brownfield plan the brownfield plan goes into effect upon closing for the property acquisition. So if there is not an agreement for the property acquisition, the brownfield plan is not in effect. So if that does, there will be some, the dollars for the property acquisition. If there is absolutely no development that occurs, those dollars would be at risk. And there aren't any protections. They're not guaranteeing those costs. So those are costs that would be assumed by the commission without, or by the city without reimbursement. There is an opportunity to add these costs to the Founder's Landing brownfield plan. In a worst case scenario, so the city could seek recovery. The infrastructure improvements wouldn't be completed or initiated until the development is imminent or mostly completed, frankly. And so we would know that the project would be proceeding and provide those revenues.
Okay. Mac, we've done a number of brownfields in the city, and to my memory, virtually all of them have involved developers that were well experienced in what they were doing. Folks that could come in, for example, do Founder's Landing or do the hotel going up now. This apparently is not that type of an arrangement, and that gives me some greater concern than I might have with a normal, if you will, brownfield project. If at any time, or at any time, did the Brownfield Committee, the Brownfield Authority sit down with the developers and explain that they were doing a development right on the edge of a working waterfront district? And for example, directly in front of them is Dockside Marine, which is our marine service company for the city, the Port of Marquette, and whether that was considered to be compatible with the type of development that's being planned or not. Did somebody really do that carefully so the developer fully understood the situation that they're moving into?
The Brownfield Authority has really kind of stayed away from those sorts of conversations. That's primarily, city zoning, that deals with those kinds of things. We don't necessarily advise people on their development activities. Talk a little bit about some of the concerns and some of the issues and attempt to direct those towards the Planning Commission or the Zoning Department if there are concerns or considerations with that in most of these cases. And so we've tried to understand that separation of what the Brownfield Authority attempts to do is to work with folks to try and make a project happen, to look at dealing with some of the diseconomies on site and provide some funding for those economies and work with the city for infrastructure improvements as well. So
We haven't really sat down and talked about the project specifically, kind of kept our focus narrow, as I think is appropriate, to the brownfield incentives and those eligible activities that they would conduct, and ensure that they conduct those in an appropriate way. But in terms of the overall project and the complexities of construction, we've kind of stayed away from that and left that to the planning and zoning folks and their own advisors.
Okay. I mean,
I
certainly.
will say I understand your concern, in that case of what is happening and where that goes. My belief, unlike some other projects, and we actually, for example, in the Founders Landing project, we had a financial security arrangement for the seawall and boardwalk. That was one of the first things to go in. That was a situation where, the project, those improvements needed to be made a little bit earlier than the project was proceeding. It was imminent. It was financed in that case. But as I mentioned, I think that the only risk are the dollars that are being spent by the city for the property acquisition in this case.
I mean, certainly in talking with some folks, their concern, and I think, certainly perhaps quite valid, is does the city need more condos, or does the city need to have a functional marine service industry? And that was part of the reason why the city did the working waterfront, was to assure those places had the ability to do what they should be doing. So I have some great sensitivity with that. I also am curious that in the agreement, unlike prior agreements that I remember, so anecdotally I might be in error, there was a method of a hierarchy of payment back. For example, when the TIF was being collected, it would initially go to the Brownfield Authority. Brownfield Authority would then pay the city and make the city whole, and then finally the developer would be last on the string of disbursement. But I didn't see that in this document. What I saw instead was, quote, and this is talking the Brownfield Authority, reimburse developer and city in a proportional share of expenses, unquote, which seems a bit confusing to me, as opposed to simply establishing a hierarchy of repayment. Or am I off track there?
No, you're exactly right. The priority has been for, I'm sorry. Okay, got a little feedback there. The priority has been for city bond issues to be paid ahead in all of those situations, and then other expenses that may be incurred by the city or the Brownfield Authority are in that proportionate share. So that component is fairly typical if there are no bonds that are issued. In all of the other projects we have, the city bonds in that kind of even the first position above the Brownfield Authority in the first position for payment. We're kind of uncertain that there'll be any bonds with respect to this particular project. So that it is a proportionate share for those. It didn't include having the city paid out first for the property acquisition. It was in a proportionate share. So you are correct in that. But we're not, those were only limited to bond payments in those prior cases.
But there would be nothing that would prevent us from establishing a hierarchy of payment regardless of whether there's a bond or not.
I know that, I mean, that's in the development agreement that's proposed to you, is that proportionate share. And you have an action item with respect to that later, I believe. Well, the Brownfield plan doesn't establish that necessarily. The development agreement does.
Okay. Thank you, Your Honor.
Other commissioners?
Thank you, Mac.
Commissioner Davis?
Yes. Mac, I was kind of struck in the background information that the state is not supportive of the state capture for the project, and I'm wondering if you could just expound on that a little bit.
Yes, I'd be happy to. The state, and I've had a couple of recent meetings where they're even narrowing even more their support for projects. MEDC has spoken, they approved state tax capture for the non-environmental eligible activities, lead and asbestos abatement, demolition, site preparation, and infrastructure, which is the majority cost in this case. They have, their primary focus is on job development, and they have, so they haven't really supported residential only projects like the Customs House is. They have supported mixed use projects like Founders, which has quite a bit of residential, but also has mixed uses in the area, and other commercial projects. So they don't perceive residential projects as a high priority for state tax capture and has not expressed support for this project. They're even going a little bit farther in recent projects and even being a little bit tighter, which I disagree with, brownfield projects for state tax capture. So it's being more difficult to get state tax capture. But they let us know quite some time ago that they were not interested in providing state support for this project. It may not have as great an impact, frankly, by the way, because if these condos are homestead, we don't have the 18 mills of school operating to capture. And if we do, the state has a provision in recent changes to the act where they get 50% of the state education tax. So the net effect is we may only get 3 mills out of the state anyway if these are primary residential exemptions or homesteads sites. Did I answer that okay? Does that respond to your question?
Yes, I understand that the state is looking for things other than residential units for their support. There was another message that you sent to a few of us, our city manager, Angeli, and myself, and in it, you just talked about MARESD. Is that our local intermediate school district, which we refer to as MARISA with an A on the end, or tell me what the D is?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I was speaking of the Marquette Alger Education Service District, Regional Education Service District. I may have had a typo on the name there.
I think locally we think of it as MARISA, so I think I've got that one out too. Thank you.
Yeah, the ISD. Marisa, that's right. I'm sorry. In that way, the Downtown Development Authority, as I mentioned, included in that is the Downtown Development Authority has kind of first rights to any incremental taxes that occur. They don't capture intermediate school district or ESD taxes in that way, and that's the only dollars that would be left for the Brownfield Authority to capture. And so that's why we have the interlocal agreement with the DDA. I wanted to add that they did support and approve the interlocal agreement at their meeting last Thursday as well.
Mayor Pro Tem Hill?
I was curious about why the 24 years on a project of this scope. That surprised me.
It is a long time. Certainly understand that. And part of it is the scale of the eligible activities compared to the amount of investment that occurs on the site, and that it is only local taxes. In almost all of the other projects, there's been state tax capture, which represents about 45% of the total property tax bill for non-homesteads. And that is what most of the projects are. There are a few founders, parcel 1 condos that are homesteads, but most all of our projects include, full state tax capture. So the combination of, level of investment, the ratio of investment to the eligible activities, and the fact that we only have local capture does extend that capture for some time.
I guess what would help me understand, can you provide a ratio of, I guess, I mean, or some way of categorizing this risk? I echo Commissioner Stonehouse that it does seem like, this seems like it's potentially, the financing is being done in a way that's just not what we're accustomed to, and so it would help us understand I don't quite understand what the net impact of all this is going to be.
Well, one way also is that there would be minimal impact because the DDA would be capturing any incremental taxes anyway. And so there really isn't any, specific impact. Those taxes would go to the DDA if the project was able to move forward. The project is, difficult enough and requires this level of support or this level of investment in order to be able to move forward. This is part of their financing package. The level of risk, I will say, if I understand your question correctly, that risk is the property acquisition cost that the city is making. I think that in and of itself, that has value to be able to complete the Baraga Street extension and improve access there as well. And like I said, if the project doesn't move forward, or there's something that happens that doesn't allow, that is, at risk for the city, we've got a backup plan to deal with that if that's the case. But did that? I wasn't
Well, I guess
sure
let me
if
put
I
it a little
was
more
addressing
plainly
your question.
then. I think, so say the development is unable to happen, the building doesn't get improved, but will we still end up with Baraga Avenue, and will we still have access to the waterfront and to marine uses?
Yes.
Okay, that's fundamentally what I was getting at. Thank you. And then two more questions. One is, we were provided a drawing here at the table of what this is going to look like, which I don't know if the public has seen. It looks like it might be increasing the footprint of the structure, or is all the work going to be done within the existing stone walls? It's not clear.
No, that's a good question. As I understand, 4 units will be included in the existing area, and the kind of lean-to shed that is to the north of the building will be removed, and there will be an additional structure with additional 2 units added to that. So it will expand the footprint to some degree.
And that footprint is going to be expanded towards the water?
No, I believe that will be north towards town, parallel to the water.
Oh, I see. So, the front is the bottom. The bottom image is the front of the building that's facing like on the street. Got it. Okay, I didn't understand that. Okay, and last question. I don't know if this matters at all, but my husband works for Marisa. And so does that bring anything into play in terms of my decision-making abilities on this item with?
I don't
It
believe so.
does sound like Marisa's not going to get money out of this deal, and so
I don't think it would matter because you don't have any personal financial gain out of this, but we can have Suzanne Larson, our city attorney, weigh in. Suzanne, do you mind to weigh in on that? I'm not sure if she's available.
yeah. I just figured,
Sorry, I had to unmute myself. I don't see that you have any financial gain to that. They're actually not a party to this. So I don't see that as an issue.
okay, thank you. I just wanted to make sure.
Thanks confirming. Do we have any other commissioner questions, comments, Commissioner Frazier?
You were saying it might increase the size a little bit. There's a old steel structure next to the building. They might build over there. Like Commissioner Stonehouse was saying, as long as, Dockside Marine, which is a good company and our only real waterfront mechanical shop for boats, as long as they don't lose, they store a lot of boats there and also have boats, for service. And we're just wondering if they're going to lose any, ground, as far as if they build the thing up, if they build it to the side. If I remember correctly, there's an old steel shed and stuff like that right next door, so they won't really lose much land. But as long as the business in front of it doesn't lose any land, okay, just wondering about that.
Yeah, the development is occurring only on the site owned by Customs House. I don't know if there's arrangements for them to utilize any portion of that property that they may be, losing, but the project will not encroach on Dockside. It only will be on the Customs House property itself.
All right, good job.
Commissioner Schlegel?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a quick question, and it kind of goes back to what Commissioner Stonehouse brought up as far as the experience and the developer and the lack thereof, I guess, that we're aware of. Do we have any sort of a set timeline on this development? Is there like a 6 or 10 year build out on this?
There is not a specific timeline that's included in the project. The board, the city commission, if the project does not proceed, The commission has the option to terminate the brownfield plan after 2 years of inactivity or any time after. And so at some point in time, if there is nothing to proceed and there's no advantage or disadvantage to be taken, the board has the right to terminate the brownfield plan. If it doesn't proceed, then there isn't necessarily a loss, like I said, except for the property acquisition funding, and will remain basically as it is now. It's been unused for some time. But we didn't require a timeline only because there isn't significant expenditure by the city or by the Brownfield Authority prior to the imminent development of the project.
Thank you. That's very helpful.
Thank you, Mac. I appreciate you answering those questions. I guess my question is more for city staff and the fact that we have items on our agenda this evening in 2 different places related to this project. And I was hoping maybe either city manager or someone else could address why and how and what we're potentially voting on here. Thanks.
Sure. First, let me just comment that the agenda cover was just slightly in error and that the DDA has approved this plan as well at their last meeting on October 8th.
Okay.
Yes, there are other related items on the agenda. The difference being that this particular item requires a public hearing.
Mm-hmm.
The other ones do not. They've kind of fallen into line based on whether they're new business or old business, and these are considered new business. So the other 2 items that are related are items 5 and 6, which is the purchase of the property by the city from the Customs House LLC, which is the Baraga Street extended we're talking about. This is the what I would consider and what we should consider as the public asset to come out of this process. As Commissioner Hill mentioned earlier, it will allow us steady access and easy access to the piling project and to the shoreline and to the border, boardwalk, excuse me, that's currently in place there. The development agreement is another aspect of this whole process. It is something that, I mean, I think they can probably all be handled at the same time if you want to do that, but it just the commission needs to understand that if you're going to approve one, we need to have all of them approved in order for this whole thing to work. So, thank you.
Thank you for explaining, and that's why I thought it would probably be important to touch on that. All of the pieces are important, and I appreciate you, city staff, working hard to make sure we've got what we need here, but I want to be open with that for the public and so that we all know kind of what we're getting into and voting on here. So I think we've had a lot of discussion. I'm just going to look around real quick and see if we've got any more, but I think at this point we probably can move on from that suspension of the rules for discussion and get back to our public hearing. So, I lost my, here we go, my spot, here we go. So.
Excuse me, Madam Mayor,
Yep.
just a comment that the Custom House developers are also available. If you have questions, they're available via Zoom.
Great, thank you, appreciate that. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and open the public hearing now. Public hearing is now open. Do we have any public wishing to speak during this public hearing?
Not unless the developers wanted to make a statement.
Okay, do we have any, anyone to make a statement? Oh, go ahead. Name,
Yep, it's Nicole.
name, full name and address, please, and you have 3 minutes to speak.
Hi, this is Nicole Gregory with the Customs House. My address is 5431 Egypt Creek Boulevard, Ada, Michigan. Thank you all for considering the Customs House. We have been working hand in hand with the city, and we really appreciate the work they've done. Mac has done a fantastic job himself, making sure we've dotted all the I's and crossed all the T's on this project, so we appreciate everyone. In regards to Commissioner Fred Stonehouse's comment in regards to development, I have a really strong background in development. I've been developing projects for the last 10 years. in multiple ways. So happy to share that information. And then as well as this project being, it's a very piece of property. You really can't move it. It's kind of is where it is. So in regards to being, close to the marina there, dockside, I know that could be a concern, but we have very strong interest. We have several of them reserved already. So the project itself is already off to a great start in regards to interest and the design we've used, the existing, old sandstone, as well as some modern design into it. So we're really excited about the project. I think what I'm most excited about personally is I'm from Marquette, born and raised there. So being able to turn that corner from Front Street down to Baraga and be able to see that property being utilized the way it should be. Well, the Baraga Street extension and that last piece that allows the pier to be accessible for everyone in Marquette and allows us as a developer to finalize this piece as well. I think this is where Marquette has been going for, probably 15, 20 years. So it's really exciting to be able to be a part of that, and we appreciate your support.
Thank you, Nicole. Appreciate you speaking. Do we have any others for this public hearing? All right, seeing no additional public hearing is now closed. Commissioners, do we have a motion on this brownfield plan? Commissioner Schlegel?
Following the public hearing, I would make the motion that we approve the attached resolution to approve the combined brownfield plan for the Custom House and authorize the mayor and clerk to sign the resolution in conjunction with the approval and signing of the Baraga Avenue Extension Purchase Agreement.
And do we have a second? Commissioner Davis?
I will second that motion.
Commissioner Schlegel? Any discussion?
I think we've had a lot of really good discussion prior to this. Thanks for all of the information.
Commissioner Davis?
I feel that it would be a very good value for the city to see that building in better shape and full of residents, and I will support this.
Other commissioners, any other discussion? Commissioner Frazier?
I'm full support of the city getting the property to extend Baraga Avenue to make it better. Not really crazy about more condos in town because we have enough people complaining about the condos, apartments we have. So I feel it's great to get the building redone. It's been sitting there for how many years? A lot of years. I'd like to see it redone, but again, like Commissioner Stonehouse said, a lot of people in Marquette are kind of sick of condos popping up everywhere. That's all.
Anyone else? Okay. With no further discussion, City Clerk, could we please have a roll call vote?
Commissioner Davis?
Yes.
Commissioner Frazier?
Yes.
Commissioner Schlegel?
Yes.
Commissioner Stonehouse?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Hill?
Yes.
Mayor Smith?
Yes. Motion passes 6-0. Moving on to item number 3, public hearing for planned unit development amendment request. City Clerk, could we please have the background?
Thank you, Mayor. On March 8th, 2010, the City of Marquette executed a planned unit development, PUD agreement with Lakeshore Residences LLC after approving the qualification criteria, preliminary site plan, final site plans, and the master deed for the project. Article 5 of the PUD agreement specifies 5 conditions, quote, under which the developer shall develop the parcel. Item 5D is the condition that the recorded condominium master deed shall specify that each home must be built within 6 years after the date the unit is purchased from the developer. The master deed was thus recorded. An applicant has requested that item 5D be changed to state, the recorded condominium master deed shall specify that each home must be built within 6 years after the date the unit is purchased from the developer, except that as long as units 2, 3, 4, and 5 are owned by David and 2 Brule, or an entity controlled by either of them, no residence must be substantially complete on units 2, 3, 4, or 5 until 20 years from the date the unit is purchased from the developer. In accordance with the procedures for a major PUD amendment, section 54.323N2 of the Land Development Code, The Planning Commission held a public hearing regarding this request on September 1st, 2020, and made the following motion. It was moved by M. Larson, seconded by A. Andres, and carried 5-0 that after conducting a public hearing and review of the PUD application with support information and staff memo attachments for 01-PUD-05-09-A7, the Planning Commission recommends that the PUD amendment request be denied by the Marquette City Commission for the following reasons. The City of Marquette granted the PUD with the intentions of being developed within a 6-year time period of purchase of a lot, and that the request to extend to 20 years is too far out of step with the original PUD contract. Yes, A. Andres, E. Brooks, M. Larson, M. Dunn, J. Cardillo, no, S. Middlefelt, and J. Kays. Tonight's public hearing was scheduled during the Commission's regular meeting of September 14th, 2020. Fiscal effect, the 4 lots in question are being taxed as vacant/undeveloped lots, and until there are homes developed upon the lots, that will remain the tax status. Recommendation, following the public hearing, concur with the decision of the Planning Commission and deny the PUD amendment. Alternatives, as determined by the Commission.
Commissioners, how would we like to proceed? Commissioner Davis?
I move that we suspend the rules for discussion.
Do we have a second on that? Mayor Pro Tem Hill?
I second that motion.
All in favor, please say yes.
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 All opposed, please say no. Motion to suspend the rules passes 6-0. Commissioner Davis, you want to start us off?
Sure. The PUD states a 6-year timeline so development can happen and the city tax base can increase. And one of our major roles as commissioners is to oversee our budget, which includes assuring sufficient tax base to provide our needed services. And the request for 20 years seems pretty excessive for the intended rapid development. However, another role of us commissioners is to listen to our constituents and consider all sides of the issue. And I have heard from residents on both sides of this request, as I'm sure some of the other commissioners had. And for this reason, I'm going to ask my fellow commissioners to give some thought to a compromise in this situation. A compromise that was discussed at the Planning Commission meeting and documented support by 2 of the planning commissioners. And that would be to grant an additional 4 years of extension so that the development is required within 10 years rather than 6. And here are my points for discussion. First, it's already been 11 years, and these 4 lots have not sold. Thus, the rapid development on these lots has not happened. Second, the 4 lots have been taken off the market independent of this purchase offer. We don't know what the intention is of the developers at this point and when they would be intended to put it back onto the market. Even if they were put back on the market today, it's unlikely that the lots will sell immediately. It could be a few years, it could even be 4 years before all lots are sold. And the 6-year timeline, and if it does take that long, the 6-year timeline then begins. And this is when a 10-year limit starts to sound palatable to me. The third point I have is that I've been informed that the Homeowners Association Board voted unanimously to support the request for the 20-year timeline. Now, to be fair, the person who informed me of this also regretted the vote. But that doesn't change the fact that a vote of the Homeowners Board was taken in support of the 20-year extension by those who live in the association. For the request that is before us does not vary from the look and feel of the housing development. And finally, by allowing 4 additional years, the potential purchaser can then decide if they want to proceed with the purchase or not. If they do, we now have the start of a timeline for development. If they choose not to purchase, things remain as is, and we have no guarantee when the lots will be developed. It could actually be longer than 10 years. So, your thoughts?
Thank you, Commissioner Davis. Other commissioners, any discussion? Commissioner Stonehouse?
Nope, second motion.
Oh,
Yeah.
sorry, Mayor Pro Tem Hill.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Davis. That was very informative. However, I learned a lot in the documents about the plan, the work that was done in making this project happen back in the late 2009, 2010 timeframe. I will note that a number of buildings went up in that development just this year after that site being not, fairly empty for the last 4 or 5 years. I don't have exactly a crystal ball to understand the real estate market, but it does seem like there's a lot of pressure right now. So it seems unlikely to me that the lots wouldn't sell. And I also feel fundamentally, beyond that, I think I do feel like I need to respect the decision of the Planning Commission and the work that was done in the prior years around arranging for this entire project and this large parcel of land to be developed and come into the community again. I don't see extenuating circumstances in particular that would mean that something special would need to happen. If there were potentially more extenuating circumstances on a given lot, maybe I could see this, but I just don't see those circumstances.
Commissioner Stonehouse?
I was on the commission when we did the original PUD, and the discussion at that point also centered around 4 years, not 6, 4, and we compromised and went to 6. So I am very adamant and feel very strongly that the 6 years is what we should be holding to and staying up with. I know that the vote of the board down there was certainly not unanimous by any means. A couple of the members down there spoke with me about it privately and that they were somewhat disturbed by it. The idea of having 3 vacant lots sitting in the middle of your neighborhood, waiting for somebody for 20 years to decide to build on, is simply not palatable, I don't believe. I think it's important that while we represent all citizens and we do look at opportunities to be able to bend things a little bit, I think that's one of those that we really need to stand up with our Planning Commission to the best thing for all of the residents that are there, that came and built their homes within the original requirement of the PUD and not seeking special treatment for someone else. So my strong recommendation to all of us is simply to follow the rules of the original PUD and to back up our Planning Commission. Thank you, Your Honor.
Commissioner Frazier?
I agree with Commissioner Stonehouse. Many developments have gone up around town. Sunrise Builders has done many developments, up by Nakano, by Granite Point, and the houses go up like clockwork. I mean, they're bang, 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 gets done. And so, if we could do a development, that's fine, but I guess you look at it, like Commissioner Stonehouse said, originally it should be 4 years, now it's 6. And why would somebody buy a property and sit in it for 20 years? I guess maybe they think it's an investment, who knows, but again, that's my thing is, why have vacant property? Maybe they're gonna, so they buy it, sit in it for 10, 15 years and then sell it to somebody else, and that person gets 20 years to do it. So I guess that's the thing is, like Commissioner Stone has, we have to look at vacant property, doesn't look as good as houses, and neighborhood, okay, who's going to move into this house, who's going to move into that house, who's going to build here. I built a house many years ago, and we had to clear the lot and build the house. It took a couple of years, but we got it done. These lots are already cleared. It's just be, digging the foundation, up you go. So, that's what I look at is, you only need 20 years to build a house. I give 4 or 6 years to get your income ready and get everything set. I can see that, but 20 years is a little silly. I agree with that.
Other commissioners? Commissioner Schlegel?
Thank you. Not going to lie, I kind of struggled with this one because I thought initially, if the person wants to make the investment in a piece of property that has been sitting there for a good deal of time, that we might consider an extension on this. So, Commissioner Davis, I think your motion or your offer to consider is very admirable, and I appreciate you bringing that up tonight. But along the same lines of what we've already heard from other commissioners, and I personally know people that have owned property out there, planned on building, and then run into a situation where they couldn't make it happen, and because it was close to that 6-year time frame, they ended up having to sell that lot. So I think that we really need to respect the original PUD that was put into place and the reasonings that came with it at that time. And again, to go back and really stand behind with the work that our planning commission did through this process and giving us a very well thought out reasonings behind what their thoughts were, and that's that's what they're there to do. They're there to back up the community in this role. So for that reason, I think that we need to respect the original PUD that was put in place, and I think that this would be, regardless of who the person is or how long the number is, after this much time, I think that we really need to respect the original land use development that was put in place, and with the original purchase of that property. Thank you.
Go ahead, Commissioner Davis.
Okay, thank you everyone for your thoughts, because what I wanted to do is just provide a suggestion for an alternate to consider. I do have a couple questions since following up to something Commissioner Frazier and Commissioner Schlegel said. It is my understanding from reading the documents that once the property is sold by the developer, that there is that 6 years, so that if someone purchases this property and is unable to build it, that's 6 years, there is not, and sells it to someone else, there is not another 6 years. I could be wrong, but it sounds to me from what I'm reading is there's 6 years from that sale when it leaves the hands of the developer. There was a second question there. Now I can't remember what it was. Oh, I was struck by the fact that the developers have taken the property off of the market. And I don't know what the intent is or when they would put that back on. So that was the other reason I was thinking about a compromise. But I respect everyone's opinion, and unless somebody else has any comments or the city can clarify my two questions, then I am fine ending the comments.
Okay. Well, I'd just like to thank Commissioner Davis for bringing up, I think you made some excellent points about potentially looking at a compromise, listening to the rest of the commission. I think, we're not blind to the fact that there are a lot of different factors at play here and in many situations. But I think at the end of the day here, I would need to support the planning commission as well. So with no further discussion, I'm looking around to make sure we don't have any further discussion. I think we will move forward to the public hearing. Public hearing is now open on this planned unit development amendment request. Do we have any members of the public? Oh, we have one written public hearing announcement. Go ahead, City Clerk. Oh, three. We have three. Okay, go ahead.
I have so much to read. We have 3 written public comments. I will try not to destroy anyone's name. The first comment is from Phyllis A. Ulrich, president of the PRP HOA, which is the Homeowners Association, 1317 Picnic Rocks Drive. To the Marquette City Commissioners, I am a homeowner in Picnic Rocks Point Condominium Association. I'm concerned about the issue whereby David and 2 Brule have requested that the PUD be changed. The PUD states that after purchase of a lot, a home must be built within 6 years. The Brules are interested in purchasing 4 lots and changing the PUD to request the time period be changed to 20 years before they are required to build any homes on these 4 lots. My home is next to these 4 lots they wish to purchase. I'm concerned that this open space will turn into a dog walking area or an open area for persons to use as they wish. There's also a concern that the Brules will have 5 votes, their home plus 4 votes for these 4 lots on any issues brought before the association board. This is a number that very much concerns me as a homeowner. On June 23, 2020, I voted to comply with the Brules' request to have the City of Marquette change the PUD. However, after much thought, I've changed my mind. I will be living next to the 4 lots and contend with a large open space, where in the winter, with the blowing snow, there's much drifting on the road and on my property. 4 lots standing vacant for 20 years is not my idea of a homeowners association where I built my home. Thank you for considering my concerns. And then the second comment is from Nancy Semenoff at 1314 Picnic Rocks Drive. To the city commissioners, I'm writing to express my opposition to the request by David and to Brule to change the Picnic Rocks Point Homeowners Association planned unit development requirement to build within 20 years after purchase rather than within the current 6-year period. Originally, as an HOA board member, I did vote in the affirmative to support this change to 20 years. However, after careful consideration of several factors, I now stand opposed to this change in the PUD. At the upcoming association board meeting next Monday, I will ask to have the motion to support this change be reconsidered. The city of Marquette will realize considerably greater tax income for developed versus undeveloped lots, especially important in that the city stands to lose income with the closing of the power plant. By way of illustration, consider an estimate of the valuation of an undeveloped lot at $55,500 that increases to $173,000 for a developed lot at PRP. Multiply that times 4 lots for a period of 20 years, or even 14 years if held undeveloped for 6 years to realize lost tax revenue. Further, at least 2 owners have viewed this change in the PUD as one of possibly more changes to occur. For example, 2 owners wanted to change the city's existing fence ordinance and to change our current PUD to support this request. Also, the HOA needs more residents to volunteer for responsibilities in this association and not fewer. I built in this condominium development expecting this area to be residential homes with building occurring in a reasonable period of time. Each owner has complied with this expectation until now. I ask the commission to consider information at this hearing, but table any final action until its next meeting to allow for maximum input. And finally, a comment from Adrian Wolf, 115 South Lakeshore Boulevard. Dear Commissioners, please accept this written comment on behalf of my clients, David and Tu Brule, in regards to their request to amend the PUD agreement as it pertains to 4 units in the Picnic Rocks Point condominium development. The Planning Commission did not recommend approval of our requested amendment because it believed that this request was, quote, too far out of step with the original PUD agreement timelines. We respectfully disagree because the PUD agreement does not currently contain any timeline for development of the units as they continue to be owned by the developer. Absent a sale to the Brules, the developer could own the units in perpetuity without any development under the current PUD agreement. The PUD agreement in paragraph 1 specifically states that the developer, quote, does not assume any liability of any kind regarding the development unless and until the developer undertakes any actual site construction activities, in which event developer's liability hereunder shall be limited to the actual site construction activities undertaken. Therefore, the developer has no obligation to market or develop these 4 units. Under the Brule's proposed amendment, once they obtain ownership of the units, the timeline begins. The other points that are important to consider when reviewing this amendment request are, 1, all stakeholders, homeowners association and developer are in support of the request. 2, the amendment request is very narrowly tailored to give a specific timeline and apply only to the Brules. 3, the Brules have made a significant investment into developing their current unit in the Picnic Rocks neighborhood and intend to do the same with the other units they acquire. Mr. Brule is also currently an officer in the Homeowners Association. 4, this requested amendment certainly does not affect the overall character of the PUD. Finally, given the options to only participate via written comment or by phone for tonight's meetings, my clients and I believe this to be the most effective method to communicate our thoughts to you. Please do not take the lack of, quote, real-time involvement at your meeting this evening as a lack of interest. Mr. and Mrs. Brule are very much still interested in obtaining your approval of their requests so that they may acquire the 4 units in question for their family. Those are all the written comments.
Okay, and we have no one on the phone waiting to comment on this public hearing?
I believe there is nobody in the waiting room.
All right, seeing no additional comments, public hearing is now closed. Commissioners, do we have a motion on this item? Commissioner Stonehouse?
Your Honor, I motion to concur with the decision of the Planning Commission and deny the public hearing.
And do we have a second? Commissioner Frazier?
Second.
Commissioner Stonehouse, any discussion? Commissioner Frazier? All in favor, please say yes.
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 All opposed, please say no. Motion passes 6-0. Moving on to item number 4, consent agenda. Commissioners, do we have a motion on consent? Commissioner Schlegel?
I'd make the motion to accept the consent agenda as written.
Do we have a second? Commissioner Frazier?
I'll second.
Any discussion? All in favor, please say yes.
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 All opposed, please say no. Motion passes 6-0. Moving on to unfinished business, item number 5, purchase of property from Customs House LLC. This will require a roll call vote. City Clerk, could you please read the background?
Thank you, Mayor. A portion of property known as the Baraga Avenue Extension is being offered for purchase to the city as a result of the proposed brownfield plan for the Customs House project. This property, owned by Customs House LLC, currently has an easement allowing for public ingress and egress, but is not maintained by the city. If purchased, the street will be incorporated into Baraga Avenue and maintained as a city street. The purchase of this property is contingent on and funded through the Custom House Act 381 Brownfield Plan as an eligible activity and reimbursable expense. City staff has reached an agreement with the Customs House LLC for the purchase of a portion of their property at 311 Lakeshore Boulevard for $47,500, and the city attorney has prepared the attached purchase agreement for commission approval. Fiscal effect: as agreed upon cash payment of $47,500 will be made and reimbursed through the Brownfield Plan tax capture for the Customs House. This plan is scheduled for approval by the Marquette City Commission on October 13th, 2020. Funds for this project were obligated in the plan for this project. A recommendation: approve the purchase of a portion of property at 311 Lakeshore Boulevard in the amount of $47,500 from Customs House LLC per the terms of the purchase agreement, and authorize the mayor and clerk to sign the agreement in conjunction with the approval and signing of the Customs House Brownfield Plan. Alternatives as determined by the commission.
Commissioners, do we have a motion? Commissioner or Mayor Pro Tem Hill?
I move that we approve the purchase of a portion of a property at 3111 Lakeshore Boulevard in the amount of $47,500 from Customs House LLC for the terms of the purchase agreement, and authorize the mayor and clerk to sign the agreement in conjunction with the approval and signing of the Customs House Brownfield Plan.
Do we have a second? Commissioner Frazier?
I'll second.
Mayor Pro Tem Hill, any discussion? Commissioner Frazier? And any additional discussion? City Clerk, could we please have a roll call vote?
Commissioner Davis,
Yes.
Commissioner Frazier,
Yes.
Commissioner Schlegel,
Yes.
Commissioner Stonehouse,
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Hill,
Yes.
and Mayor Smith.
Yes, motion passes 6-0. Moving on to number 6, development agreement with Customs House LLC. City Clerk, could we please have the background?
A development and reimbursement agreement is required as a condition of the Customs House Act 381 Brownfield Plan and purchase agreement for the Baraga Avenue extension. The agreement is standard to all brownfield projects and outlines the arrangements for Customs House to receive reimbursement from brownfield TIF generated by the project. The Marquette Brownfield Redevelopment Authority will review this agreement at their October 15th meeting. Fiscal effect: none by this action. Recommendation: approve the development and reimbursement agreement as presented and authorize the mayor and clerk to sign the agreement in conjunction with the Customs House Brownfield Plan and Baraga Avenue Extension Purchase Agreement. Alternatives as determined by the commission.
Commissioners, do we have a motion? Commissioner Stonehouse?
Your Honor, I motion to approve the development and reimbursement agreement as presented and authorize the mayor and clerk to sign the agreement in conjunction with the Customs House Brownfield Plan and Baraga Avenue Extension Purchase Agreement.
Do we have a second? Commissioner Schlegel?
I'd second the motion.
Commissioner Stonehouse, any discussion?
I think we've had good discussion, Your Honor. Nothing further.
Commissioner Schlegel?
Moving on.
Any additional discussion? Not seeing any. All in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
All opposed, please say no. Motion passes 6-0. Moving on to item number 7, wastewater engineering design services. I feel like we've moved on to another subject here. City Clerk, could we please have the background?
Thank you, Mayor. At its May 11th, 2020 City Commission meeting, the commission unanimously approved engineering services for development of a state revolving fund, SRF, project plan for solids handling improvements at the wastewater treatment facility. The solids improvement project has made the SRF list for a 20-year low-interest loan and $283,500 in green project loan forgiveness. The next phase of the project is to start detailed design. At its September 28th, 2020 City Commission meeting, the Commission authorized the Director of Municipal Utilities to negotiate a contract for detailed design and SRF project support. Fiscal effect: The wastewater budget has sufficient funds for this expense and will be reimbursed from the state revolving fund loan. Recommendation, approve the contract with Donahue and Associates, Inc. to provide engineering design services for the state revolving fund solids handling improvement project for a not-to-exceed amount of $475,300 and authorize the mayor and clerk to sign the contract. Alternatives as determined by the commission.
All right, commissioners, do we have a motion? Mayor Pro Tem Hill?
I move that we approve the contract. I move that we approve the contract with Donahue and Associates, Inc. to provide engineering design services for the State Revolving Fund Solids Handling Improvement Project for a not-to-exceed amount of $475,300 and authorize the mayor and clerk to sign the contract.
And Commissioner Frazier?
Second.
Any discussion, Mayor Pro Tem Hill?
I'm glad to see this project moving forward and really appreciate the work that's gone into design, getting to this point for design, and that we have this reimbursement to allow this to happen to improve our water situation.
Commissioner Frazier? Anything to add? Anything else, other commissioners? All right. All in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
All opposed, please say no. Motion passes 6-0. Moving on to new business, proclamation for Halloween celebration. City Clerk, could you please read the background?
Thank you, Mayor. In support of a safe Halloween celebration, the City Commission is establishing trick-or-treat hours between 4 and 7 p.m. on Saturday, October 31st. Additionally, with the assistance of the Marquette County Health Department and material from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services and the Center for Disease Control, the City Manager's Office has developed guidelines for best trick-or-treating practices during the current COVID-19 public health emergency. These guidelines were approved by the Marquette County Managers and Supervisors Group at their weekly meeting. Fiscal effect, none. Recommendation, approve the Halloween celebration proclamation and trick-or-treating guidelines. Alternatives as determined by the commission.
Thank you. Commissioners, do we have a motion? Commissioner Schlegel?
I'd like to make the motion to approve the Halloween celebration proclamation and trick-or-treating guidelines.
Thank you. Second? Commissioner Frazier? Commissioner Schlegel, discussion?
I think I'll kind of touch on this, but I'll do it in commissioner comment.
Sounds good. Commissioner Frazier?
I think we got good guidelines. Just want to remind people that according to DDA, they've decided not to do trick-or-treating downtown, which is unfortunate, but just the way the road goes right now, but hopefully next year we'll be back in business.
Okay. Any additional discussion? I just wanted to thank our city manager for working with the surrounding municipalities within the county of Marquette to come up with this important Halloween guidelines document and to have something that we can all in our overall community look towards. I'm seeing him raise his hand here, but it's important if we're going to make this kind of proclamation that we're cooperating between other cities nearby. City manager, do you have something to add?
I just appreciate if you mention the hours that are in the document.
So the trick-or-treating hours as proposed are from 4 to 7 p.m. All right. All in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
All opposed, please say no. Motion passes 6-0. New business item number 9, city manager contract extension. City clerk, could you please read the background?
Thank you, Mayor. At its October 13th, 2015 meeting, the City Commission approved a 2-year contract with L. Michael Angeli as city manager. The contract has since been extended, with the most recent contract expiring October 18th of this year. The agreed-upon terms of the proposed renewal contract include a base salary of $124,480, term life insurance of $50,000, a $6,000 car allowance, and the same fringe benefits package as city department heads. The salary and benefits are unchanged from the previous contract. The renewal contract provides for the payment of a performance bonus in an amount determined by the City Commission if, in the discretion of the City Commission, funding is available to pay such bonus. The term of this contract has been extended to October 1, 2021. Fiscal effect, sufficient funds are available in the fiscal year 2021 budget for this position. Recommendation, approve a 1-year contract with L. Michael Angeli to continue as Marquette's city manager and authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign the contract. alternatives as determined by the Commission.
Thank you. Commissioners, do we have a motion? Commissioner Frazier?
I make a motion to approve a one-year contract with Mike Angeli to continue as Marquette City Manager, and authorize the mayor and city clerk to sign the contract.
And do we have a second? Commissioner Schlegel?
I'd second the motion.
Commissioner Frazier, any discussion?
Mike's done a great job so far. If he's willing to hang in there one more year, I'll let him do it.
Commissioner Schlegel?
I just want to say how much I appreciate the efforts put forth by our city manager and leading us into this, into and through this COVID experience that we've dealt with here in 2020. And I really appreciate the one-year extension, and looking forward to working with you further.
Any other additional discussion? I'd just like to echo those comments. We talked about this already. This was on our agenda, I think, last time. We appreciate you, Mike, and we're glad to see you sign another contract. All in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
Yes. All opposed, please say no. Motion passes 6-0. Moving on to item number 10, which was a new ad, Indigenous Peoples' Day proclamation. I have a copy of it here. City Clerk, do you have a copy that you could read for us, or would you like me to read it? You
Nope,
do have
I-
one? Okay.
I
If you
can
could please
read
read that for us, I'd appreciate it.
Sure. Proclamation supporting Indigenous Peoples' Day. Whereas Indigenous Peoples' Day was first proposed in 1977 by a delegation of Native nations to the International Conference on Discrimination Against Indigenous Populations in the Americas, and whereas the City of Marquette recognizes the historic, cultural, and contemporary significance of Indigenous peoples of the lands that also became known as the Americas, and whereas the City of Marquette recognizes it was founded and built upon lands first inhabited by Indigenous peoples of this region, and acknowledges and honors these members of the community. And whereas at their October 15th, 2019 meeting, the Marquette City Commission unanimously approved a motion to designate the second Monday of October annually as Indigenous Peoples' Day in the City of Marquette, now therefore be it resolved that the Mayor and City Commission of the City of Marquette hereby recognize and reaffirm their designation of the second Monday in October as Indigenous Peoples' Day to uplift our country's Indigenous roots, history, and contributions, dated this 13th day of October 2020, signed Jennifer A. Smith, Mayor.
Thank you, City Clerk. Commissioners, do we have a motion on this proclamation? Commissioner Schlegel?
I would gladly make the motion again this year to recognize the proclamation in recognition of the Indigenous Peoples' Day as presented.
Do we have a second? Commissioner Davis?
I'll second that motion.
Okay. Commissioner Schlegel, anything to talk about?
You know, I don't know if there's enough time to talk about how much I'm excited about, once again, this undertaking. I'm also glad to hear that this year, because of the work that we started last year and the recognition of Indigenous Peoples' Day, that Northern Michigan University's ad hoc committee also went through and has recognized it this year for the first time. And I think that, you know, the writings on the wall that we need to embrace and further experience the history and impact, that significant impact that the Native American culture has had in our region. And I hope that this will continue to blossom into something else that we can continue to basically just, you know, incorporate it more into our day-to-day lives as we live in this beautiful community on the shores of Lake Superior. We're lucky to have what we have affording to us, and we should thank all of our history from the Native Americans on up to appreciate really what we have around us today. So it's very exciting. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Davis?
I am happy to support this resolution and don't think I can add anything more than what was already eloquently stated by Commissioner Schlegel.
Any other commissioners? Mayor Pro Tem Hill?
I will just say that I think in addition to understanding the history, which is really important and a foundation, is looking forward and how to better work together going forward with the different tribes in the Upper Peninsula and how COVID made it a challenge this year to get together and work in these ways that I think we're recognizing might have been lacking in the past. And I think there's a lot of opportunity going forward to continue that and to work with the folks who are here right now and the future generations.
Commissioner Stonehouse?
Your Honor, something to think ahead for the future on. You know, we went through, or rather we had the, well, we issued a proclamation last year and to a point a little bit with Northern, a little bit off cycle with what they were doing. This year we were a little tighter on that cycling. And I think without COVID next year, hopefully, we'll be able to be tighter still. So this is something that we need to build on as we step into the future, and how we can do it better, and how we can do it better together with our partner at Northern. So.
Agreed. That was going to be my point. You took the words right out of my mouth, Commissioner Stonehouse. I think this is something, we've made progress, certainly, but I think it's something we could look at from a strategic planning lens and see what other things that we can do to partner with our Native partners in the region and work together to really honor the history and the present with Indigenous peoples. So that's something I'm certainly looking forward to in the next few years here. Any other discussion? All right. All in favor, please say yes.
Yes.
All opposed, please say no. Motion passes 6-0. Brings us to comments from the commission. Commissioner Schlegel, go ahead and start us off.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just a little thought. I saw this on social media with trick-or-treating, and if people are concerned about contact with others, obviously I would encourage them not to turn their lights on the outside of their house to let the kids know that there's an opportunity for them to come up and reap the rewards of Halloween. At the same time, if there is an opportunity, I saw a really cute way of offering up those tasty treats to the kids. If you have a candy bar or any kind of packaged candy, you could actually do stick or treat. And what they do is they encourage you to put a skewer that you see in the grocery stores or anywhere else, and you tape your candy to the back side of that skewer, and you put it in your lawn in a certain area or in a planter box that allows them to come up and pick a treat out of that area very safely and social distancing. At the same time, maybe you can stand on there, sit on the porch and scare the snot out of them. That would be encouraged as well. I'd like to see that. But I think it was a really cute way to embrace a difficult holiday with social distancing, and I would encourage people to consider that or their own creative ways of offering up treats to the kids. As we all know, the psyche gets a little bit nuts when you're going through something like this, and I can vouch for that. I'm going a little stir crazy, not being able to hang around with some of the people that I would like to. But I think it's a great opportunity to still offer up a treat for those kids that want to go out and partake and do it safely. So please consider it, and at the same time, please watch out for those kids on that night as they're out having a good time, and we'll go from there. But thank you. That's all I have for tonight.
Thank you. Commissioner Frazier?
Well, I had a lovely September and October. We've had all 4 seasons in a couple months. As you know, during the winter, we get that all the time. We get, a blizzard, then 40, 50 degrees next day, then freezing rain. You just never know. I know, being in the boating industry, it was looking slim in September, and then summer came back in October. So you just never know what's going to do it. And I joke with the lady that runs Frost Streets all the time. When I go to get ice cream, support local businesses, I say, well, thanks for bringing summer back. I said, yeah, I appreciate it. It'll be here for one day, then leave tomorrow, but you never know. And I think everybody's enjoying the weather. Go out, see the colors, enjoy yourself. I think, like everybody said, hey, Halloween would be good for everybody. Get the kids out and have a good time, have fun, and everybody good time. Hopefully everybody's accepting everything and doing good, so hopefully everybody has a good time.
Commissioner Davis? Go ahead.
Sure. The holiday season is upon us, and already we're being encouraged to shop for Christmas presents, and Amazon is going to do their thing. But I just want to encourage people to take a look at really strengthening our community by purchasing as much as you can locally. And we do have a program called Love on Local. And there's an app that you can download. You can purchase gift cards. There are drawings and all kinds of things. And just please take a look at their Facebook page, Love on Local, and also consider downloading that app and supporting our local businesses. Thank you.
Thanks. Commissioner Stonehouse?
Thank you, Your Honor. A couple of quick things. It's good to be able to do Halloween this year. It's good for a lot of reasons. I think one of them being it kind of gets us back a little bit to normal, even though we're going to have to do it differently. It's still something that gives us a little bit of, I think, good value for what we're attempting to do, what we will be doing. And from a personal note, that means that my wife will buy candy, and she will buy far more candy than we will ever give away, which means I will have candy for some time. So that's a personal advantage.
I expect to see some at our next meeting.
Maybe I should be bringing it in here. But, I'd like to thank the manager and his staff for particularly working up the Customs House project. That was a knotty one, even though it was a very small one. And again, I commend them for the great work they did in being able to bring it to us, even with the questioning that we had. Finally, I'll be the adult in the room, I guess, and caution people again, remember to use your mask, remember the social distance, remember to wash your hands. We're still not done with the pandemic and will not be certainly for some time yet. So please, let's work to be healthy. Thank you, Your Honor.
Mayor Pro Tem Hill?
Thank you. Couple of things. Hey, the recycling started. Wasn't that fun to have one basket with everything in it? Sorry, I just had to say that. I will stop nerding out about that now. But and glass, of course, is to come. And again, I really appreciate the staff putting a lot of time and effort in negotiations, and we're going to continue to work on communication around that. We talked about Mordum and had the ribbon cutting for Lakeshore Boulevard, the continued action of the development on the waterfront, near the waterfront, supporting our waterfront. A lot has happened on that this year. I'm hoping that in the upcoming season of construction next year, we'll have an opportunity to discuss more projects away from the waterfront. There's significant commercial properties that are sitting vacant. There's what's going to happen to the old hospital site. I think there's a lot of questions. I think, as Commissioner Davis pointed out, the need to support our local businesses at this time of COVID. I think there's a lot of conversation to have in our strategic planning around economic development and how we're going to support that as we have completed some projects, some of which have been in the books for 20 years around what's happening on our lakefront. I think it's time to start turning and looking at the rest of our community. I want to applaud and thank the city managers who have been meeting almost weekly since COVID to work through significant issues. I'm really glad that that's there. I think that's going to only continue to pay dividends into the future through COVID and beyond. And I'm going to close with it's time for brush pickup, although, I mean, I think this year we're going to get off. Last year, of course, we had the snow fall on top of the leaf piles, and that was a bit of that was a problem on my street where we had folks lost part of their lawn and things like that. So hopefully this year we've got fall brush pickup scheduled October 26th to October 30th. Leaf compost pickup occurs the week of November 2nd to the 6th, and again on the 9th through the 13th. Here's hoping that we have the weather to make all of that happen, and I appreciate everyone taking such good care of their properties and the city staff who helps the city look so great. Thank you.
Great. I have a few things that I'd like to talk about. So first of all, yesterday I had an interesting conversation. I spoke with the mayor of Green Bay, Wisconsin, and as we all know, that's kind of a COVID hotspot right now. Just a kind of a general warning that it seems like a lot of the cases there are coming from things like weddings and funerals and social gatherings. and also from the, potentially, there's not data to support it, but he certainly believed it had to do with the bars right around Lambeau Field on game day. So as much as I'm a Packers fan, I think it would be a good time for us to watch the game from home. Secondly, the DDA, the Downtown Development Authority, put out an email, I think it was yesterday, outlining some of their events this fall. So first of all, trick-or-treating downtown is not happening this year, unfortunately. They are encouraging any businesses who wanted to do something on Halloween to do it safely and to put out how they intend to do that ahead of time. There are a couple of events that have kind of changed this year. I always look forward to the ladies' night of shopping and going downtown and having dinner with my mom and my godmother. And this year, it's not going to be just one night, it's going to be a whole week to kind of spread out the traffic. So keep an eye out for those changes. There is an added restaurant week that was like a harvest, and probably getting the name wrong, Harvest Restaurant Week, which is new and I think exciting, and I think it's a good opportunity for folks to support our local restaurants. And you know, even if you're not able to participate indoors, you don't feel comfortable, you could always do takeout as an option. And as Commissioner Davis mentioned, I know it's Amazon Prime Day today and tomorrow, and the deals are just, they're popping up everywhere on Facebook, Instagram, email. I don't know how they can get in so many different places, but try to remember to shop local when you can. It's a great reminder to do so. Two more things. So one, the city of Marquette did get some additional CARES Act money. It's only $7,100, but I think every penny helps, and it has to do with the water forgiveness program from Michigan Senate Bill 690. City of Marquette had 17 matches, and we're expecting to receive $7,156.89 to help with delinquent water accounts. So every little bit helps. Thanks to city staff for working on that. And final note, I know political activity, the partisan stuff is heating up. Just a reminder to try to be kind to one another, and an extra reminder that local politics, local political activity often has a greater impact on your everyday life than national or state politics. So please vote in the local races, whether you do that absentee or in person. And just a reminder that you can register to vote up to and including Election Day in person. So thank you to our city clerk and his office for assisting folks with that. That's all that I have tonight. Brings us to comments from the city manager.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have nothing but to say thank you for supporting the items on the agenda tonight. I don't have to say very loudly that the custom house thing was a nice thing to get through. I think it will end in a very nice result for the city of Marquette. And I also have to thank you for extending my contract for another year. I appreciate that. It's a lot better than getting fired. So, thank you.
Thank you. We are adjourned at 7:38 p.m. Thanks, everyone. Pete, you only have one more meeting.